Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Welcome to Arranged Marriage Tuesday. Welcome, everybody. We're in a great spot in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. You know why? Because the whole wonderful thing is great. So I can say that
It's always a good spot.
Every day. Special day today because we're starting off for Kartik tomorrow. Special magical mystical month where all your spiritual endeavors get multiplied by 1,000. We're going to start off today as the full moon gets bigger and bigger and plumper because tomorrow is the day of the Rasa Leela, the magical dance where Krishna comes out, sits under the Vamsi Vat tree, plays his flute and calls all the gopis. You're going to see a beautiful moon tomorrow night. Maybe even tonight. So I'm going to do a Sweet Baby Krishna tonight, Mara. What do you think about that?
That sounds great. 7:30? 7:30?
7:30, I think.
Karuna's
7:30.
excited about that.
Karuna's excited. Okay.
Yeah, I can
So
see.
join us. We're going to do a reading today. That's for Patreon members. You want to be a Patreon member? Really easy to join the club. You give a little pint of your blood, and then you make a monthly contribution, and then you're in the club. We give you secretive mantras, and after about 6 to 8 weeks, you can levitate. And then we read Krishna's pastimes as much as possible. There's a bunch of back stuff on the, like if you're in Patreon, it's not like you just get a class that's happening. You get vaults of very rare, valuable material, insight by Kaustubha, and readings by me and other great teachers, yoga classes, etc. So patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. And yep, that's what's happening.
Any other announcements before we get started, Mara?
Yes, we have some Bhakti recovery group meetings. The men meet today at 11 and the women at 2 p.m.
Okay.
Bhakti recovery group. Sort of got a lot to do with what's going on in the Bhagavatam right now. Recovery. You know, sometimes when you look at things in their extreme forms, like suppose you're not eating well, and I say, well, you know, because you're shoving your mouth with Dunkin' Donuts all the time, and you can say, yeah, I got to eat healthier. You know, sometimes you can use something like extreme, like a Big Mac or a Dunkin' Donut, just to make a point. So I think there's like a beauty of the recovery program is it's really steeped, not the program itself, but addiction itself is steeped in this tamaguna, or this mode of ignorance where the habits one develops are addictive and dismantling.
Self-destructive.
Yeah, really self-destructive. So sometimes by hitting that rock bottom, by hitting the floor, so to speak, you can spring up off the floor, and it makes for great analogies within the gunas of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And so I just pulled a couple of recovery quotes today because we're talking about how we're gripped. The jiva, this pure spirit soul, is gripped by the gunas. And the gripping is dragging us practically helplessly. It's very obvious when we're gripped by the mode of ignorance or tamas, because it drags us to do things that we know are bad. And I think it's probably safe to say that we've all done things that like this isn't the best choice, but I'm gonna do it anyway. We've been there. We've been there with food, maybe your sexual parameters, with spending, with
Things you say to other people.
Things we say. Yeah. So
you're talking about okay. Well,
sometimes when we're steeped so much in it, we can't even see it. So there's a couple interesting little quotes.
Who are these quotes from?
From Pinterest. You might have heard of Pinterest. It was a great philosopher. Recovery is a battle, a daily battle. Just keep fighting. Just hold on. Slowly, the battle will get easier. So it's like the idea of the grip of the guna, as opposed to the turning over, the surrendering to God, surrendering to the higher power. And slowly, that which was once sweet, we start to really, actually, this is quite bitter. And that's sort of what happens in our own spiritual recovery. The things that we actually thought were feeding us and fueling us, we realize these were actually the actual things that were dismantling us. Recovery is not a death sentence. Addiction is, right? We tend to think like, okay, regulation, surrender to God, trusting God, let go of the things I'm attached to. That sounds like a death sentence if you're in the grips of an addiction, right?
Yeah. What kind of life is that?
Yeah. Sobriety is not an anchor; it's a pair of wings. Think about that one.
Okay, so it's just kind of flipping the way, flip it to positive. The mind is telling you it's negative. Flip it to positive. See how it's positive.
Yeah, a little spiritual judo.
Okay.
Anyway, I think that's real. And I was really amazed. I got extra messages that day. We were talking about what people's like step was towards their bhakti. A lot of people's step was giving up alcohol. And even after the show, people were writing it on the board. And after the show, I got a lot of messages like, it really was. People were like, it's remarkable about how integrated and how normalized something like alcohol is in the culture, and how when you actually just step away from it and close that door, it opens a whole new door. And it's one of those things you don't even realize it until you walk away from it. So kudos to all of you guys who've made these very bold choices, which sometimes go against social norms, family gatherings, etc., like that. But there's such a better return on investment. It's quite impressive. Justin Miller says, very normal in army culture. Yeah, you know what? I think it's normal in every culture. I think it's army culture, Christmas culture, family culture, prom night culture. Did you go to the prom, Kaustubha?
No, I did not attend any proms. Did you go to prom?
Did I go to the prom? Yes, I did. Yes, I did go to the prom.
You did all these things that I would know, that just seemed to me like out of the scope of the hardcore punk rock.
I was nominated for the prom king, my friend. I kid you not.
For real? Did anyone vote for you?
Yeah, I was popular. I was a popular kid in high school.
Okay.
I mean,
you give me different pictures. You give us different pictures of your high school life. Sometimes you're like this total loser being abused, and the next time you're being a prom kid.
You know what? I was sort of like,
who was this Ray Capo?
You know what? I was rebelling from that thing, but I was sort of in that thing as well.
Okay.
I was a class clown, so people like that, but I just was not. Yeah, I was somehow trapped in the middle, and then I just got away from it.
If only we could go back and see it all, Margo. All right, shall we get into the Bhagavatam?
Yeah,
let's do it.
I wonder if we would have liked each other in high school.
Oh, we definitely would have. No, we're both into hardcore. It would have been natural.
Yeah, back then, if you were into hardcore, it's like you were best friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayet Before reciting the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevayat bhagavati uttama bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to this transcendental Lord who is praised with transcendental songs will be established as an irrevocable fact.
As a transcendental fact as well.
Yes. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilatam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers have opening my eyes, I like that better, with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Reading from the Srimad-Bhagavatam, chapter 20, Canto 3, chapter 26, Fundamental Principles of Material Nature, and we left off on text 4, I think.
I thought we only read up to 2.
We spent that whole class on 2 verses.
We didn't even get. It was just 2. Why don't you just read the first 2 quick, and then let's get to the third.
All right. The personality of Godhead Kapila continued, "My dear mother, now I shall ascribe to you unto the different categories of the absolute truth, knowing which any person can be released from the influence of the gunas.
Mm-hmm.
Knowledge is the ultimate
free from the matrix. Bust out.
Yeah. Knowledge is the ultimate perfection of self-realization. I shall explain that knowledge unto you by which the knots of attachment to the material world are cut."
All right. Here it comes.
Yeah.
Now, so that was just a little intro. I'm more or less, Kapila is saying, I'm going to provide for you the knowledge that you need to become free from the binding factor of the mode's material nature, the illusion that we're in, the matrix that we're in. Here it comes. And now the first thing that he's going to do in these next 2 texts, he's going to establish that this matrix, this material energy, Krishna's beyond it. He's not bound by it. And then the following verse is going to say that we are. He's making that distinction. So text 3.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Supreme Soul, and he has no beginning. He is transcendental to the material gunas and beyond the existence of the material world. He is perceivable everywhere because he is self-effulgent, and by his self-effulgent luster, the entire creation is maintained.
Yeah. And when it says he's perceivable everywhere, when I read Prabhupada's commentary on it, it almost sounds like more what he's saying is that his perception is everywhere. Right? That his awareness is spread everywhere throughout the material energy. So it's a way of indicating that this is all under his control. He's supervising it all. His awareness is everywhere within the material energy. He's without beginning, so he's before, whatever manifestations are there in the material energy. He's beyond it.
I love the fact that the philosophy teaches like God is in every living atom, as opposed to God as some divine deity separate than the material creation. There's the mundane world, and then there's God out there. But actually, God is in every atom, every leaf, every tree, every being, every bug, every bird. And it's just a different way of wearing lenses. It could be something that's truthfully, it's probably one of the reasons, the cause of the destruction of the environment, which is
lack of awareness of that, right?
Lack of awareness that God is right in the earth itself.
Yeah, that it's all God's body. Right. In other words, we call this our body because our awareness is spread throughout it. So God's awareness is spread through all of creation. So in a sense, it's all his body.
Like there's a feeling like you can do whatever you want to the earth, but still somehow maintain a religious integrity, which just isn't true. There has to be some type of integrity in relationship to the planet, to the plants, etc. You can't divorce one from the other. I have a God relationship, and then I just use everything else as a commodity or resources, etc.
Yeah. Well, that's the Upanishad, right? That that Krishna, that his awareness is everywhere, in a sense, therefore it's all owned by him. Again, I've been harping on this for some weeks now because it's just part of something that I'm trying to more deeply understand in my mind. But just as because our consciousness is spread through our body, we say it's my body and I possess it. And because Krishna's consciousness is spread throughout all creation, in every atom, as you're saying, then it's all his. It's his possession. And therefore, as we're moving through it, we need to recognize that it belongs to him. And therefore, like Ishopanishad will say, therefore we should just take our quota, right? Like what's granted to us. Live relatively simply, accept our quota, and no more. And if we operate that way, then we can live forever, like in one sense, peacefully. The problem is that we generally that awareness is not very deep. And so we exploit the earth, we exploit each other, we battle over the resources, et cetera, et cetera.
Does it ever end?
Well,
like, this is like the story of history.
Yeah.
This is like the story of history. It's like conquering, being conquered, amassing great, land, property, kingdoms.
It's the nature of the material world. It is, right?
That
kind of conflict. Yeah. Particularly in this age that we're in, right? There are pockets, and there are certain times where things are much more harmonious, but we're moving in, we've moved into an era where it's very unharmonious.
I mean, as long as there's recorded history that I can tell, it's always been, warmongering.
Yeah.
I'm
saying is
there might have been, there's a golden age
history,
or a Puranic
Satya
history,
Yuga and so on. Yeah. But in any case, what's happening here is we're calling this jnana, right? It means knowledge, and it's the knowledge that sets one free. We need to understand the nature of our bondage to become free of it. Yeah. And specifically, we can call this sambhanda jnana. Sambhanda means, sambhanda? Put you on the hot seat there, Raghu.
What did you say?
The word sambhanda.
I don't know what it means.
You do? You don't?
I don't.
Okay, so it means like the nature of our connection, our relationship, how one thing relates to another. It's samband, So there's sambanda, there's abhideya, there's prayojana, right? Sambanda means, sambanda jnana means understanding the nature of the relationship, especially between these three factors. If you understand these three, really it includes everything in the material world, but you understand the nature of God, you understand the nature of the self or the soul, and you understand the nature of the material energy, which is our body and the world that we're moving in. Understanding these three and how they relate to one another, the samband, we call this sambandha jnana. It's the fundamental understanding, of existence that we need to see things clearly. So, Kapila Dev is starting this by explaining the nature of the relationship between God and the material energy, and he's making it clear to Devahuti. Don't misunderstand this, right? You shared something and you said, "Isn't it interesting?" Right? God's awareness is spread throughout all the, throughout all the material energy. But then we might think, well, the material energy is God. Well, yes and no, right? It's his energy and his awareness is spread throughout it. At the same time, he's separate from it. He's the source of it. And right. So like the nuances are explained, the oneness and the difference of it, we could just say, oh yeah, this whole world is God. In one sense it is, but in another sense, he has a personal, separate manifestation. And so these verses here are telling us his relationship with that material energy.
Love it.
All right.
Ready?
Yep. Text 4.
Continuing on. Text 4, as his pastime, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the greatest of the great, accepted the subtle material energy, which is invested with the three gunas, and which is related with Vishnu. Okay. By the way, if you're following along with the book, I sometimes switch out the three material modes with the three gunas. I think a lot of times in yoga culture, we know what the gunas are, so I just switch them quick without people noticing. But you might notice, which is invested with the three material modes or the three gunas, and which is related with Vishnu. Divided into varieties by the threefold modes, material nature creates the forms of the living entities. And the living entities, seeing this, are illusioned by knowledge covering feature of the illusory energy. Because of their forgetfulness.
Let's hold it right there. Let's slow down a second. So now we've shifted, right? Text 3 and 4 explained the nature of God with the material energy, saying that he's there before it, saying that his consciousness is spread throughout it, even saying that as a pastime he can enter into it, right? But he's always beyond it, never controlled by it, never covered by it, never bewildered by it. Now, this is saying that our connection with this material energy is different, right? We don't enter it as a pastime. We try to play out some pastimes here, but actually we suffer here, right? When we enter it, it's a whole different thing. So again, divided into different varieties. Was it 3 or 4 that we just read? We just read 4. 5, yeah. Divided into different varieties by her threefold molds. Material nature creates the forms of the living entities. So this material energy, it comes into different shapes that we enter into. These become our avatars, right? These become our so-called identities within the material world, the equipment that we get to move through it. And seeing this, and the living entities seeing this are illusioned, where we become bound by this energy. They're illusioned by the knowledge covering feature of the illusory energy. We identify with it. We think this body is me. We think happiness will be found through external manifestations of material energy. And so rather than this being our pastime, it's actually our entanglement. Okay. This is a big verse now, and I think we can discuss this next verse at length. It's text 6. It's very interesting stuff.
Because of his forgetfulness, the transcendental living entity, that's us, accepts the influence of the material energy as their field of activities. Like, this is it. This is what I got. This is my life.
This is the real world.
Actuated, they wrongly apply the activities to themselves. To himself.
Okay.
Interesting. They wrongly apply their activities. What does that mean?
So in other words, I think I am the doer, right? Ahankara. I have a false idea, right? I think I accomplished this. I did it. And now, so this is, I was just thinking about this because Bhagavad-gita goes into this in many different places in the Gita.
Well, the whole Gita teases this whole thing out. It's still a little confusing. I am not the doer. Well, what does that actually mean? I'm going to get a glass of water. I didn't do that.
Okay.
I'm not the, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to get a glass of water. I'm getting a glass of water right now. How am I not the doer, Kaustubha? Defeat me.
Well, I'm not going to defeat you, Raghunath. We're on the same side here, okay?
No, we're not!
I'll share an analogy. I just thought of this morning, but I think it can be helpful, okay? Now, let's say that, Raghunath, you want to experience, you want to experience some unique things, and I say, and you turn to me. Let's say I'm a computer programmer, or let's say someone else is.
No.
And they say, okay, Raghunath, let's sit you down in a chair. Let's plug your senses into a virtual reality. Let's give you the goggles, and let's give you the headphones, and attach other equipment to your body so that as you move through this virtual reality, it's going to feel very real, and we're going to give you different kinds of experience, okay? Now, let me ask you a question. How would you like to move about this world? Would you like to fly? Would you like a fancy car? Do you want to walk? Do you want to run 10 times faster than you run? How would you like to move through it?
I want to run.
Okay, you're a runner?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then when you find that when you're in that world, you got your sneakers on, you've got the best, the computer programmer could give you like the best pair of sneakers. The computer programmer could even give you like extra speed, right? Like so that you could run faster than you run in the real world. And so you're running in that world. And as you're running through that world, you take notice as you, let's say, where are you running? Like what does the environment look like for you?
It's in fields, beautiful cow pastures.
Fields. Oh, cow pastures.
Yeah.
Okay, very nice. So you're running through the cow pastures and over the hills, and you're running fast. It's kind of exciting. I assume it's a sunny day like that, and you're having a good time. And then you come across, let's say that within that virtual reality, there's a mango tree, right?
Yeah.
And there's ripe mangoes hanging from it, okay? And so you go and you pick one of those mangoes, and you begin to eat it in the virtual reality. You're tasting it, and it's delicious, right? Now, here's the question. Did you do anything? Really? No, you just sat in the chair. You didn't do anything. You didn't run. You didn't see a mango. You didn't eat a mango. You just sat in your chair and did nothing. All of that was carried out by the computer programming. You didn't do anything. Understood?
Okay, get that. Got that.
Okay. And now let's say I also, sitting in some other room or even on the other side of the planet, someone also brought me into that program. So that, let's say I decided I want to fly, but I'm in the same computer program as you, right? So here I am, I'm flying, and I'm flying by your field, and I notice the same mango tree, right? You with me?
I got it. I'm taking it in.
And so I'm saying, oh, look at that. There's a ripe mango tree. There's some guy down there eating them too. Well, I want some of those mangoes too. So I start to eat the mangoes, right? I'm also enjoying them, right? Eating them. They're delicious and so on. But sooner or later, we start to run out of mangoes. Now you and I have a conflict, right? There's one mango left. Who gets it, right? Actually, there's no mangoes at all, right? In one sense, the whole thing is an illusion. There's virtual mangoes, but now you and I are fighting over that mango, and neither of us have done anything. But now we've created a situation where we're the cause of our own suffering. This battle between us is, even though neither of us are doing anything, we're sitting alone in a room, far away from each other, in a virtual world. We're sitting doing nothing, but now we're starting to experience anxiety.
All right. So what are we supposed to do in this world? Just walk around and just meditate?
Hold on.
Meditate and just bump into each other and
let me complete it.
No, without any desires, not eat things.
Well, let me complete it.
What do we do?
Slow down. So now you and I, although we've done nothing, and although everything's being carried out by a computer program, in this analogy would be the modes of material nature, right? Everything's being carried out by the material energy. We're doing nothing. But at the same time, because we've approached this situation of the mangoes, let's even put it this way. Let's say I saw the tree, you saw the tree, and we both thought, I need that tree for my future happiness. And you thought you need that tree for your future happiness. And we began to fight over it, right? Rather than learn to cooperate for it. Now you and I are in anxiety. Now even in the virtual world, we're fighting with one another and feeling pain, in the real world, based on something that's not really even truly happening in the virtual world.
Based in.
Okay. So this is the idea. So let's read this verse again. He says, because of his forgetfulness, I've forgotten that I'm sitting in a chair. You've forgotten that you're sitting in a chair. We've lost that. We think that the virtual world is real, right? So because of their forgetfulness, the transcendental living entity, they're transcendental to the virtual reality. They're existing outside it, but they forgot it. So because of their forgetfulness, the transcendental living entity accepts the influence of the material energy as their own field of activities. And thus actuated, thus plugged in and forgetful of the reality outside, they wrongly apply their activities to themselves. I picked the mango, I flew, I ran, I did all these things. You didn't do anything. Right? Interesting? Yeah. Why don't you read the commentary?
Was this 6 again, or 5 or 6?
6.
I'm going to try to get the Sanskrit scholar Nityananda tomorrow for a walk on Wednesday. What do you think about that?
I think
fun.
it's a great idea.
Do some Sanskrit, maybe do the Damodar Astakam, maybe. I'm taking that course again.
Wonderful.
A little inspired. I was like, put it on the scale last night. Do the Sanskrit study or watch The Matrix. I put it up on the scale, and I went with Sanskrit study. Okay.
All right.
The forgetful living entity can be
that.
compared to a man who is under the influence of disease and has become mad, or to a man haunted by ghosts who acts without control and yet thinks himself to be in control.
So that's another analogy.
I like the ghost analogy.
Okay.
Haunted by ghosts. It's a thing. Under the influence of material nature, the conditioned soul becomes absorbed in material consciousness. In this consciousness, whatever is done under the influence of the material energy is accepted by the conditioned soul as self-actuated. Do you remember when the Ghostbuster came to the Brooklyn Temple?
No.
Do you remember that?
I heard about it. I wasn't there.
Oh, I was there, man. He had the ability just to look inside you and tell you if you had a ghost inside you. And then he did this whole exorcism. It's quite amazing.
I bet it was.
It was really amazing.
Did he smash a pumpkin?
No, is that part of it?
Yeah, I thought he smashed a pumpkin out on the sidewalk or something like that.
Oh, he might have. Yeah. And maybe that's where the pumpkin jack-o'-lantern connection comes from.
I don't know, but maybe we ought to stick with the
It's all
subject
coming
here,
together.
It's not. It's getting diverted.
Mary, are you giving me a no? Are you giving me one of those head shakes? Like, where is he going? I thought you'd be totally into this. In this connect consciousness, whatever is done under the influence of the material energy is accepted by the conditioned soul as self-actuated.
I did it, right?
I did this.
I am the doer. Ahankara. I am the doer. Yeah.
Actually, the soul in his pure state of existence should be in Krishna consciousness, right? Krishna consciousness, it's not like some religion you're joining. This is like the default of the spirit soul. It just means conscious of God in every, Krishna consciousness can sound very sectarian. It just means you are fully conscious of God in every living thing, in every living being, in every waking moment. That's all Krishna consciousness means. It's got nothing to do with a little church or a little institution. It means fully God conscious. Mm-hmm. When a person is not acting in Krishna consciousness, they are understood to be acting in, here's the only other option, material consciousness. Right. Material consciousness. The material consciousness simply has to be purified. It's so simple, huh? Mm-hmm. You just got material consciousness. We get that. It's just got to be purified. One becomes liberated by accepting Krishna or the Supreme Lord as master, and by changing the mode of consciousness from material consciousness to Krishna consciousness.
Okay. So even going back to our analogy, say you and I are plugged into this virtual reality, but we know that, let's say we both know the computer programmer, right? Mm-hmm. And let's say that computer, obviously this computer programmer has great ability to control and create worlds and so on and so forth. And even let's say that person was almost like a parental figure to us, who cared for us, who loved us and so on. We're in that virtual reality and we've lost touch with, someone, that well-wisher of mine created this world that I'm in. That's called material consciousness, right? I've forgotten that the world that I'm moving through was created by someone else who wishes me well. I'm in complete forgetfulness of the care of that person. I'm moving through the virtual world trying to enjoy it and getting in trouble in so many ways and experiencing difficulties and anxieties and fear and pain in so many different ways. So as you're saying, even within that virtual reality, we can recognize, everything in this world, my running shoes and the mango tree and the mangoes, that was all created by my friend. Mm. And when I eat the mango, I can think of my friend. And as I'm running through the cow pastures, I'm realizing my friend created it all. It's all his creative energy that made this all manifest. That's the way of just switching the material consciousness and changing it to the Krishna consciousness.
We can see that as we travel through the gunas. The whole show, we started with this whole idea of addiction, where we realize we think there's some actual control, but where I'm completely being dominated by my senses and my mind. And as we get from as maybe the noose of addictive life loosens, and we start to step away from our addictive patterns, we start to see there was no freedom there. And so we start to see ourselves go through the spectrum of, I'm not doing this. This is happening to me. I'm just witnessing and observing. And this is sort of like our journey through the higher gunas. And eventually where we're going with this is transcendence.
Yeah. Even to take this analogy one step further, right? Let's say you and I are getting plugged into that virtual reality.
Go there, take it to the next level.
Let's say that it was due to our not being able to cooperate in the real world well. We wanted to be the controller of it all, right? And we lost our ability to appreciate our friend and others and cooperate smoothly in a selfless and harmonious way with others. So then it's okay, well, if you want to try to be the center of everything, then you can enter into that virtual world. We got plugged in, we forgot that it's virtual. And so really what we're meant to do is like we're ready to come back out when we learn the lessons in the virtual world that allow us to harmoniously enter back into the real world, right? You and I have to learn, let's not fight over this mango tree. This is stupid, right? This was all provided by our friend. Let's remember our friend. And we really had to work with each other to remember that friend, right? So we'd sit together, and we'd get together, in the evening and read books about that friend and, and remind each other about that friend. And gradually our affection and appreciation for that friend would begin to arise in us again. And
sweet baby friend.
That's what sweet baby friend is all about. Exactly.
Remember.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what it would be like. But let's check into the Bhagavad Gita here. And with this analogy, let's read some verses from the Gita that might have been more like, I don't get it. And maybe it'll make more sense now. Does that sound okay?
Yeah. What you got? What chapter are you in?
Well, I was thinking let's go to chapter 5. Okay. Beginning with text 8, where it says, a person in divine consciousness. So even though they're in that virtual reality, they know about what's external and they're not lost in it and they're not fighting in it anymore, right? So a person in divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping, and breathing, all in the virtual world, right?
Mm-hmm.
They always know within themselves that they actually do nothing at all. Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, or opening and closing eyes, they know that only the material senses are engaged with their sense objects and that they are aloof from them. Does that make more sense now?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It's all of that is being carried out by the material. This material energy that we live in is like that virtual world. In one sense, all we do is desire, but we're actually, all the rest of it is carried out by, you could say, God and God's agents that are moving the material energy in ways. Then text 10, one who performs their duty without attachment. I'm going to move through the virtual reality with knowing, that mango is not mine. Happiness doesn't come from it. I have an existence beyond it. One who performs their duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful reactions as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. In other words, because they're not fighting for that mango in the virtual world anymore, they're free from reactions within that virtual world. And now they're moving through it free from bad karma, right? Free from any karma, really. The yogis, abandoning attachment, act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses, only for the purpose of purification. Now, everything that they do within that virtual world is to more deeply understand their existence outside of it. The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because they offer the results of their activities to me, Krishna says, whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of their labor, becomes entangled in that virtual reality. When the embodied living being controls their nature and mentally renounces all actions, I'm not the doer, right? This is all happening by the actions of the material energy. I don't want anything from this virtual world. Then they reside happily in the city of 9 gates, meaning the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done. Right?
What city do you live in?
9 gates.
City of 9 gates. You might. What's your zip code?
My city's got 9 gates too. The embodied spirit, master of their body, does not create activities, nor do they induce people to act, nor do they create the fruits of action. All of this is enacted by the modes of material nature. They know, right? I'm just sitting in the chair. I'm just desiring. All of this is moving out by other agents. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume, and this is real important now, nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. So it's saying that the pleasant and unpleasant reactions that are happening in this world, I can't blame them on the computer programmer. I'm acting in a computer program that has certain laws, and whether I'm feeling happiness or distress based on that is according to how I have chosen to act within that virtual realm, right? And no blame can be placed on the programmer. So I'll read the verse again. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. In other words, he doesn't claim responsibility. That's the responsibility of the individual. Now, this is a beautiful verse. When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then their knowledge reveals everything as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. In other words, once you get it, once you realize, oh, I get it, right? I'm not the doer of anything. All of this, I can only desire. It may or may not be carried out by the material energy with the sanction of God, and whatever come to me in this world, they're due to my own choices in this world. But I have an existence beyond it. Once you get that, it lights up everything. Like this lights up every. When it's dark, you can't see anything. You don't know where you're going. You're completely lost. When the sun lights up, it all starts to click, and then you can transcend it. And so that's what is happening in a conversation like this, right? In the conversation between Kapila Dev and his mother, that he's saying, let me light it all up for you like the sun lights up everything in the daytime. First understand that the material energy is Krishna's energy, that he's beyond it. Now understand that we enter into it, we lose touch with it, we think that we're the doer, and that becomes the cause of all our sufferings. So that's just one place.
I love bringing it back to the Gita. I feel like the Bhagavatam sheds light on the Gita.
It does. And when you get to this Sankhya aspect, because there's so much jnana in the Bhagavad-gita, certain verses are just like...
They pop.
The parallels are so clear, Here's also Bhagavad-gita text 1330. One who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. Right? Again, once I see that I'm just sitting in this chair and everything's going on in the virtual reality, it's all a computer program, then you actually see the truth. And so similarly, the yogi sees like this. One who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self, the actual soul, does nothing, actually sees. And then he'll go on 2 verses later to say, those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. I might feel like you and I are battling over that mango, right? That mango tree in the virtual world. And we're feeling, each one of us is feeling a sense of deep anxiety, fear, in all the pressures that come with that. But actually we realize I'm not doing anything and I'm not even entangled. I just need to realize it. I just need to wake up. I just need to wake up to see what's actually happening here. So
it's the old, I'm gripping the tree, complaining that the tree is gripping you.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
The tree's got me. The tree's got me. No, you got the
Let go.
tree. The tree doesn't got you. You got the tree.
Right. So in that sense, we're not entangled at all. We're sitting in a room, not in this virtual reality. We just need to wake up to it.
Now, if you would like the super pill, the super herbal superfood elixir tonight to be released from the gunas, right? It's very attractive. Tonight, 7:30, Sweet Baby Krishna. Released from the gunas practically instantly.
Yeah. It's the most powerful way to do it. You just start reading about that true existence that's beyond the virtual existence.
What's the verse?
Which one?
Releasing from the gunas, last verse of the...
Last verse of the
Brahma
Yoga
Bhuta
Sutras?
Prasanatma. Is that it?
Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, Nasochati Nakangshati, Samasarveshu Bhuteshu, Mad Bhaktim Lavate Param.
Translation and purport by Mara.
Oh.
What?
That's not,
I wonder. Stuff.
Does our friend Karuna know that one? No.
Is that the?
Is that the one that's just surrender unto me?
No.
No.
Mara, go back to all girls school, all girls sloka school.
Brahmabhuta prasanama. It means one who is thus transcendently situated once realizes the supreme Brahman. They never lament nor desire to have anything. They're equally disposed towards every living entity. In that state, they attain pure devotional service unto Krishna.
That wasn't the verse I was thinking of.
Oh, which one were
It
you
is a
thinking?
good verse. Okay. Anyway, tonight, sweet baby Krishna. Do we have any takeaways, dear Mara?
We still got plenty of time, Raghunath.
Oh, do we?
Yeah.
Oh, it's 7 of.
Yeah.
Man, I'm blind like a bat. I was all wrapping things up.
No need to wrap things up. Why don't you read the next verse?
All right.
Text 7.
Okay. Material consciousness is the cause of one's conditional life, in which conditions are enforced upon the living entity by the material energy. Isn't that nice? They're enforced upon us by the material energy. Although the spirit soul does not do anything and is transcendental to such activities, is thus affected by conditional life.
Okay.
We feel it. We know it.
Yeah. We're making choices. And then based on those choices, the material energy is carrying things out. And then we have to bear the results of those choices. They come back to us.
Yeah.
So again, material consciousness is the cause of one's conditional life. Because I'm accepting this virtual world as real, I'm making all kind of decisions based on that, which are bringing me different reactions that I'm experiencing.
A whole spectrum of choices with a whole spectrum of reaction. I mean, I am one choice away from ruining my life. If you look at it like that, you know what I mean? We are just a series of choices within a spectrum. You know, there's some like good choices, healthy choices, you know, smart choices, natural choices. And then there's like these disastrous choices. And sometimes due to some trigger, due to some past attachment, due to some weird influence, we make a crazy choice and it changes. It hits the first domino that affects our whole future and maybe lifetimes of future. Yeah, you can safely say that perfection of yoga is the refinement of our choices, because we have this idea that we are bodies always in flux by our choices. What do you think about that?
Well, that's, that was largely, had a lot to do with our interview. We had a really great interview the other day, Raghu, with Simon Haas. And we discussed his book, The Dharma Code. All right, so if you haven't heard that episode, I encourage people to go check it out.
That's Sunday's episode.
That was last Sunday's episode. What was the number of that one, Mara?
That
557 maybe?
556.
556. So the book, The Dharma Code, I think the subtitle of the book is like Making Enlightened Choices or something like that. And so he was showing that by living life a certain way, by embracing certain principles that are laws that operate within the universe, that it kind of like, once you're in harmony with those laws, and those laws were, what were they again? Truthfulness, purity, nonviolence, and Karuna knows, but I'm forgetting. What was the last one? Nonviolence and truthfulness, purity, nonviolence, and help me.
Veganism?
Discipline. Thank you. Discipline. Veganism, discipline, and discipline. That when one embraces these fully, that it gives one, it kind of frees one from the entanglement. You see, because even like this verse is saying, these things are being enforced upon us, and even they affect our decision making. Like for instance, and Prabhupada especially goes here, when we talk about karma, when the Bhagavad-gita defines karma, it definitely means those things that come at us and make us feel different things. But often within these kind of texts, when it speaks of karma, it kind of narrows it down to the next birth that you take, right? The next form that you take, the next set of equipment and circumstances that you're placed in. And so, for instance, if you make choices, animalistic choices in this life, then it's likely that in your next birth, you get the equipment and the circumstances of an animal in the next life. So let's say you take birth in the body of an animal. Let's say you take birth in the body of a dog. Once you're there, a lot is being enforced upon you. There's a lot of limitations now that are forced upon you. You have the limitations of a dog, right? You have no hands, for instance, so you can't like lift things the way you could as a human being, you know, you can, and so on. But also you have the mind of a dog. You know, you've got the computer of a dog in there that's got certain programming of ideas that what will make it happy, certain types of food, certain type of experience. And when you're in that body, that material energy is enforcing on you the consciousness of a dog. So now you're thinking and acting like a dog and having the experience of a dog. And so you're getting all that, like, you know, thrown on top. So his point in this book was, while we have the opportunity in the human body to embrace and live in harmony with these powerful laws, again, truthfulness, purity, nonviolence, and discipline, then what that does is it gives us the freedom to make very wise choices and free ourselves rather than become further entangled. It was a good interview. I think you'd like it, Raghu. You should check that one out.
Okay. I needed that day off. I was really actually eager to hear him, but
I think it's good that you took it.
Are you shaming me?
Not at all.
I'm not shaming me.
Not at all.
I needed a break.
I'm just sharing it with you as a friend. I'm saying, hey, I think you would enjoy this.
No, I will.
You know?
I'm going to listen to it.
I think you'd appreciate it. That's all. All right. Text 8. One more.
Text 8. Let's do it, man. Ready. Hey, it's official. I'm going to England.
Can you ever just like not divert the conversation?
I think life is about diverting, Kaustubha. I think it's about exploring the trail, the path, sometimes walking off the path, seeing the pretty things in the forest.
Okay.
Really? The Bhagavad-gita thinks differently.
Krishna says differently.
Krishna says, enjoy the path. The path is part of the journey.
I forgot that verse. Which one was that?
Does he say
what
that?
Chapter? 19th chapter?
He does say that, actually. Krishna says life is a game. Play it.
Okay, I guess we could come back to this verse next time.
The cause of the condition.
No. His time is up now. Let's save it for tomorrow. It'll be a good one for tomorrow. It'll be good for tomorrow. Mara, takeaways?
Yeah.
One, Raghunath is going to England. 2, what were some of the other diversions? He took us
life is a game. Play it.
Accept our quota and no more.
Okay.
Understand our bondage to become free of it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't fight over unreal mangoes.
Bunky like that one.
We forgot we're plugged into.
Don't fight over fake mangoes.
Yeah.
Don't fight over fake mangoes. I like that.
Okay.
Shift our consciousness from the material to Krishna.
That's what you got to do.
Recognize everything is created by our well-wishing friend.
Mm-hmm.
I am not the doer.
I'm not
We're
a
all
very
one
good-
T-shirt.
choice.
Classic T-shirt.
Classic T-shirt. Tattoo maybe. We're all one choice away from disaster.
Good one.
I like that one. That's a great. I would wear that shirt.
Okay.
And the perfection of yoga is the refinement of our choices.
There you go. All right, Raghu. So now tell us about.
I would pay money to see Mara and Kaustubha get a tattoo at the same time. Some quote, some hashtag from the show. Wouldn't that be great?
I don't feel the need to. I just
back piece.
back.
Tell the world how you feel.
All right.
We got a lot of people on the show today. I didn't even see until they sneak in the back door when the show already started.
Yeah.
Sneaky.
So you're going to England, right? You got
going to
your dates
England.
after that?
Throwing Zurich in there. Going to Germany. I'm back on the road. Can't. It's in my blood. Grace Young is here. Happy handstand. Laura Denoya. Welcome. And Taylor and Sam, you cuties. Good to see everybody.